Today's video will be part 2 of our discussion on patch 5 for Baldur's Gate 3's early access. If you missed part 1, I'll put a link to that below in the video description. My last video was quite long and I still didn't get to talking about everything that I wanted to, and in this video I'd also like to talk about a few of the bugs that have been encountered with this patch. Quick shout out to Jeffrey Hammer for becoming a recent channel patron, and also a big thank you to Talking Mudcrab, Brandon Abbott, Michael Anthony, and Joe in the Dark for becoming channel members. I really do appreciate you guys. Links to my Twitter and my Discord server will be below. Let's get right into it. I'll start off the video briefly mentioning a few of the bugs and technical issues that have come with patch 5 that still seem to be present even after Larian released their recent hotfix update. The first one, and perhaps the most important, being that players are experiencing more game crashes and also severe FPS drops that were not seemingly as widespread of a problem prior to patch 5. The first thing I would recommend that you try if you've not done this yet is clicking on the Larian launcher and switching from Vulkan to DirectX 11, or vice versa, before you hit that play button. And this may temporarily solve some of the issues that you're experiencing, but it doesn't seem to help everyone. And if this is the case, you can always go back to patch 4 by right-clicking on Baldur's Gate 3 in your Steam library, clicking on Properties, then going down to Beta where you can select which patch you would like to opt into. And the download will start right away. I know that not everyone is going to want to try that though, and I understand because patch 5 is a pretty significant patch that you would want to play. You don't want to have to go back to other patches, and in that case I guess you just have to sit tight and hopefully Larian will have a solution to this sooner rather than later. I was fortunate in that I didn't really experience many of these technical issues. However, I did experience a bug that was kind of game breaking, and this is many of the NPCs thinking that my druid is in a particular wild shape form when I'm not, and because of this they're constantly shooing me away and also running away from me. I've never been treated this horribly in my entire life. This has made it hard to interact with NPCs, and sometimes I just have to leave my druid behind when going into places like the Druid's Grove or the Goblin's Camp. And this is a pretty serious bug because it's kind of game breaking in my opinion, so hopefully it's on the upper part of the list for bug fix priorities. And the last major bug that I'll mention is that players are reporting that certain cutscenes are not activating in patch 5, such as having a high approval rating with Gal, but him not telling you about the little problem that he has. And I'll leave it at that for the bugs and technical issues. I usually don't discuss these things in videos because it seems fairly obvious that they will be fixed as they are reported, but maybe it's a good idea to make these problems more public so that players know that they're not alone in experiencing them, and also some of the more casual players may not even know that they're experiencing a bug when in fact they are, and I think it's important that these players know that the game is not intended to be like that. Alright, now on to discussing some of the things I left out in my previous video, starting off with point and click character responses. So patch 5 introduced new character voice lines that will trigger when you do things such as selecting a character, moving a character, or hiding one of your characters. It's kind of like being inside a character's head and hearing what they're saying to themselves in different situations and when prompted to do something. For example, Shadowheart may say, "Darkness cloak me," when you use the hide action with her. Astarion may say, "Ready or not." I even heard my druid say, "If everyone else minds their own business, I'll be fine." Some of the new voice lines will even go off when just selecting a character. Astarion may say, "Careful, I bite." Fucking hire me, Larian, let's go, baby. And Shadow may say, "May faith guide me." What the f am I doing right now? All of this, in my opinion, is really great, and I'm really happy that they added it. However, I don't know how in the 9 hells some of you guys play with this setting being on the always setting. So thankfully, Larian gave us different options for the point and click dialogue in terms of how often you want them to trigger. All you have to do is go into the game's audio options, go down to point and click, and choose if you want this on always, occasionally, or you can even completely turn it off. When I was on the always setting, I got annoyed really fast, and if I played a full playthrough on this setting, I think I would have ended up killing my entire party with a triple thunder wave and a little jumpy jump. Even the occasional setting seemed seemed a bit much for my personal liking, but then again, I am a clicker and I spam click way too many times when I'm doing things, so this is kind of my fault. I'd be curious as to what your guys' experience with this has been like. I don't want Larian to change anything. I like this being optional, but maybe they need to look into offering something in between the occasional option and turned off. It's not really a big deal, but just something that I noticed as a clicker. Many of you guys probably noticed that you are getting weighed down much more often in this patch than in previous playthroughs, and this is because Larian has introduced a new encumbrance system. This is represented by a weight you can carry bar underneath your inventory, and as you guys can see, there's a white section, a yellow section, and a red section. If you're within the white segment for a specific character, your character can move freely at their full speed, and when in turn-based mode, they get to move their full distance, and that's an easier way of putting it for non-D&D players. For example, Astarion as a high elf can move 9 meters or 30 feet in one turn, and this is the character's speed. If your inventory weight exceeds the limits of the white bar, you enter into the yellow section, and you're now considered encumbered. In this state, your character will now be walking as opposed to jogging, and when you're in turn-based mode, the distance you can move is reduced. Astarion goes from 9 meters max to 6 meters. If you enter into the red segment, your character is now considered heavily encumbered and moves even slower, and while you're in turn-based mode, the distance you can move goes down even more. Astarion in this stage can only move 3 meters, so 1/3 the distance from when he was within the white segment of the bar. Now, I know that some players do not like this system, and I understand it can be a little frustrating when you become encumbered, but I do want to point out that it's very easy to reduce your inventory weight, because all you have to do is simply right-click on some of the items in your inventory and send them back to your camp. With patch 5 and the new camp supply system, many players are picking up more food, therefore taking on much more weight, and I would absolutely recommend sending all of that food back to your camp right when you pick it up. Patch 5 also made it so that food no longer gives hit points back, so there's little reason to keep it on your character, I guess, unless you plan on selling it or maybe chucking some sausage links at a boulette's head. A couple people in the community brought up the idea of having food automatically sent back to the camp, or at least as a toggleable option. Is that a word? I'm using it either way. And shout out to Baraz and John for this idea, because it can be a hassle to have to right click on all of the food items that you pick up. Something for Larian to consider. Leave your feedback below. So focusing back on the new encumbrance system, I'm personally very happy with this change. Number one, it makes strength-based characters have much more importance and much more value in the party, because the higher that your strength ability score is, the more you can carry. My druid, who has 8 strength, on the Imperial system has a carrying capacity of 160 pounds and can stay in the white until reaching 96 pounds. And if we look at Shadowheart with 10 strength, she can carry 200 pounds max and not enter into the yellow until 120 pounds. So those 2 extra points into strength with Shadowheart allow her to carry 24 more pounds worth of inventory weight before becoming encumbered. If I wild shape with my druid into a bear, my strength goes to 19, and this gives me a carrying capacity of 380 pounds, and the weight enters into the yellow at 228 pounds. Strength characters can really pull their weight. Oh. I also think it's important to require players to have at least a little bit of item and inventory management, which in turn places more value on the actual items in the game. Picking up items in patch 5 encourages players to look a little more into the items that they're actually picking up, instead of just being blind hoarders. More players should now be thinking about if an item is valuable enough or useful enough to actually keep on their character, and this may lead them to do more creative, cool things in this game with items, and it also may lead to more player activity with the merchants in the game. I personally don't think in its current form that this is a hardcore system or anything extreme like that, and actually I would like the encumbrance system to be a little more difficult and strict, but that's just me and I'm not advocating that for all players on normal difficulties, so don't get mad in the comments below like some of you guys have before. Overall, I like this change and I think it's in a decent spot for the base game. I did leave out one thing though, and that is that when you become encumbered, your jump distance is reduced to half, and when you're heavily encumbered in the red, you cannot jump at all. Next up is throwing items. Larian has changed it so that the throwing distance of items is now influenced by the weight of the thrown object. But I noticed that with strong characters like Lae'zel, I was able to throw boots at 1 pound, a supply pack at 10 pounds, and a chain shirt at 18 pounds, all the same exact distance. When I switched to Shadowheart, the distances then started to change from one object to another. Now Lae'zel does have more strength, so this leads me to believe that when you reach a certain strength score, maybe 16, all of the objects in the game that are able to be thrown will be able to be thrown the same distance. The stronger that you are, the further that you can throw heavier objects, but you don't throw lighter objects any further. It's also important to note that with many of the lighter objects, such as health potions, all of your characters will be able to throw them the same distance, regardless of strength. So my druid with 8 strength can throw a health potion just as far as Lae'zel with 17 strength. It's a tad confusing, but I'll keep an eye on this throughout the game's development. The major change with this though seems to be that the max weight of what we're actually able to throw has now been severely reduced. Even with a strong character like Lae'zel, you can no longer throw the gnome, Gimbleback, and you cannot throw something like the Githyanki armor that weighs 36 pounds. I'm not sure what the weight cutoff is for not being able to throw certain objects with a high strength character, but I'll also try to keep an eye on this as I keep playing. I know that with a druid with 8 strength, I cannot throw an 18-pound chain shirt at all. But with Shadowheart with 10 strength, so only 2 points higher, I can throw the chain shirt, but its throw distance is less than half as far as she can throw a health potion. And then with Lae'zel with 17 strength, I can throw the 18-pound chain shirt just as far as a health potion. I've never really tested that stuff like this before, so some of it may have already been in the game, but I figured I'd share my findings with you. If anyone has attempted to throw the gnome or another gnome with more than 17 strength, definitely let us know below what the game allowed you to do. And the last thing I'll briefly mention in the video, because I didn't talk about it in the last video, is that a Starion, or a rogue, can still use their sneak attack when behind an enemy, as long as a friendly is within 5 feet of that enemy target, or your rogue can simply be hidden and then you'll be able to use your sneak attack. So no longer do you get advantage from simply being behind your target, but if a friendly is close, you can still use your deadly sneak attack melee ability without needing advantage. I just wanted to point that out because I saw a lot of people talking about that in my previous video. Okay, I lied to you. One more thing. In Arachnophobes, this is your chance to exit the video. So with patch 5, spiders now take fall damage. First, let me mention that you're right, it doesn't seem like spiders take fall damage IRL, and this is mostly true. However, larger spiders can absolutely get injured from falling. In Baldur's Gate 3, we're dealing with rather large spiders, so it kind of makes sense. The problem that I have with this though is that Larian is seemingly not implementing climbing into the game, and spiders, as we all know, can climb up and down. So when I'm in my spider form as a druid and I want to get down a steep wall, I have to use jump. And with patch 5, jumping certain distances causes damage to your spider. I think that this should be taken out, but maybe left in for spiders that are actually knocked off a ledge, like with a thunder wave or something like that. It would be awesome to actually see creatures climbing in this game, and also flying, because even the flying creatures do like this weird jump fly thing. But if they don't do that, at the very least, find a way to allow these creatures to descend to places that they could climb to without taking any damage. What do you guys think? And that'll be it for today's video. I still left out a ton of other changes that came with patch 5, but now with this part 1 and 2 video, I think I've went over all of the things that were really important to talk about, or that I wanted to talk about. Some other things that they did were change the spell animations and the spell visuals for certain spells, such as the cantrip Eldritch Blast now looks different. Gal's mage armor looks different. You guys will notice all that stuff as you keep playing. And also one more thing that's notable is that being prone now gives oh wow, gives, what is this? Being prone gives disadvantage on strength and dexterity saving throws, while before it was a guaranteed failure. All right, if you guys ended up enjoying this video, please hit that like and hit the like button. I'm so off. I can't do this anymore. The good thing is that most people don't make it this far into a video. Well, if you guys ended up enjoying this video, hit that, smash that like button, poke that like button. Make fucking love to that like button, baby. And I'll catch you guys on the next one, goats.